All right, welcome in. We are Nick Sainer, Jay Foreman with you after a weekend where we kind of took some time to recover after being at Pinnacle Bank Arena for 42 total games as a station. So shout out to the ticket first and foremost for that. Nick Sainer, Jay Foreman with you. Probably heard us quite a bit over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I hope so. It was. It's always a challenge, but it's a good challenge. We have a lot of fun with it and really dive into it. So it's like 4 days of sun up to sundown basketball, great basketball,
Yeah.
as well.
Well, I mean, and you and I, we went through the football circuit together
Right.
in the fall, and then we, obviously celebrated the state championships there at Memorial Stadium. But then we had basketball, went right into basketball season, late fall, I guess, and we kind of knew that okay, this state tournament, both girls and boys, when you're talking about the bigger classes, especially are going to be a little more competitive than
Right.
maybe in years past, right? Because and we find that out every single time we get to the state tournament where it's like, all right, these even in the smaller classes, specifically for the boys, we saw a couple of overtime games, some really good games over at the Devaney Center as well. Um, we just want to kind of recap everything that happened over the last 2 weeks in case you missed anything, in case anything that once again that's important for you guys to know as the listener and as the consumer, because Jay and I were fortunate enough to have a front row seat. I mean, and huge thanks to the NSAA for basically just putting us in the same spot every single day.
Right.
We were there pretty much all day, every day, bar except for just a couple of days. And like I said, 42 games. I think we said that at the start of last year, and Jay, you and I did that back in 2023. But like when we say it out loud, it's like, okay, yeah, well, that doesn't seem too bad when you span it over the course of 8 days. But as you can tell, like my voice is still recovering from it. But
Right.
then also, I think like on Wednesday and Thursday, it's not bad. But then it's like you go home on that Thursday night and go, holy cow, you still have 2 more
2 more
days of
days. Yeah.
this. And if we're at the girls' state tournament, which we were 2 weeks ago now, or a week and a half ago, it's like, okay, now we got to not get through, but now we got to make it through not only this week, we have basically 3 days of rest, but also preparation on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, in addition to our additional on-air roles. And then it's like, okay, we're back there. We're parked
Right.
at PBA from Wednesday to Saturday. And it's truly a grueling process.
Right.
And so I think and I get reminded every year, number one, just, I mean, how lucky I think we are because it is a blast to be courtside through some of the blowouts, through some of the disappointing games. Each time that there is an overtime one, like we had with Norris and Bennington, or just the high level basketball like we had with Scott and Elkhorn North on
Right.
the girls' side of things, it kind of makes all 42 games worth it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth it. I mean, it's like one of those things that NSAA has it where you're putting on an event, you're excited for it, but then you're worn out by it. And what people don't understand when you really prepare, in our case, when you think of the Scott Catholic girls and the Bellevue West girls, we've seen the
Yeah.
maturation of them. And
Mhm.
what I mean by that is they are the same team. Majority of the players, the same team that played in 23. We got to see them in 24, and then the excitement in the game
Mhm.
drains you as well. You just don't sit there and, as people can tell, if you listen, hopefully everybody listens to us on the radio. We get into the games, and so it's the preparation. It's almost like we're talking. What do you think this game is going to be like?
Yeah.
And if a team barely slides by, do you think they'll be able to reach? So you're invested in it, and like you said, it's a long process. It's Wednesday, Thursday,
Mhm.
Friday, Saturday, and then as you get going, the days get longer, and then Sunday's kind of like, okay, you're just walking around like a zombie, and then
Yeah.
Monday and Tuesday we're back on our regular grind and prepping, and then next thing you know, Wednesday, 8 o'clock in the morning, we're down at PBA or Devaney.
Well, and it's a blast. I mean, don't get us wrong
Yeah.
here. It's a lot of fun, and we're thankful that we're able to do it. And once again, thanks to the NSAA, thanks to the team, the participants, the coaches that were gracious enough to talk to us,
Yeah.
come over for a post game interview.
Fans,
Yeah,
the
fans
fans
were
were
great. We
great,
met a
yeah.
lot of ticket listeners. It was a lot of fun over the last 2 weeks. But we just want to kind of hop on here and recap everything because there was a lot of basketball, and there's a very good chance that there were some storylines that were missed or just recaps that maybe you guys missed. And we just want to make sure that number one, I think the biggest reason why 42 games or all of the games, right? Most of them at PBA that we want to broadcast to you guys. It's like, yeah, the Class A games are great and the Class B games are awesome, and they are, and they deserve a spot. But I think, here's the deal. We were probably one of the few radio stations outside the hometown or surrounding area that had a Shelton game on the
Right.
station
Yeah.
or had a Bridgeport game
Or why
not.
not?
Yeah, why not? Or Sydney, right? And,
Right.
and like obviously those smaller radio stations, small town radio stations that have their signal out there, there's value for them to have the games. And high school sports are such a big deal in small towns. And I think the state tournament is an opportunity for where that kind of creeps into the bigger cities and in turn now the bigger radio stations, because I think when you have and we see it, Jay, firsthand when we're at PBA, all the small town radio stations lined up.
Right.
That is their pinnacle. And
Right.
that's a good thing. It's because just as much A, Class B, and even C1 to an extent, how are broadcasted and talked about, it's important for Class D2, Class D1,
Right.
Class C2, and also the teams and mascots that you guys have no clue about. It's important to get those on big city radio stations.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And then when the smaller towns come,
Yeah.
everybody
Oh,
comes.
man.
And I mean, that's what makes it exciting. I mean, one of the things that sticks out, I forget what small town it was, and looked over in the student section, all of them had, cowboy boots
Yep.
or cowboy hats on. Lets me know that that's how they, they come down and they take over the city for, that time slot, and they probably come in the night before. And the interesting stories, right? And you have sometimes you have, siblings playing, and then Bronson Jock or was it
Johnson Brock,
Johnson Brock? Yeah. Their dad is the head coach, the athletic director. He has twins on the team. Kohler, who's pretty much one of their top players. His dad's the principal. So when you start looking at it, all the teams are invested, and you see it in their play. And I think it's really special, and it's an honor, Nick, for us to be able to do it, and also for us to, the ticket allowing us to do it to where allowing us to, throw ourselves out there, from when we first did it, grow it, then obviously take the bull by the horns and earn the respect of everybody while we're doing hopefully good work.
Well, and we'll get into the actual games here in just a second. I mean, I said it on Monday morning as well when I got into work. Like, people hear from you and I, and yeah, like, don't get us wrong, like, it's a lot of work on our end, but it's also like wouldn't be possible without first off all the sponsors, right, that are willing to put their money and their name out there with our product and trust us with that for 42 games, because there's a lot of words being said, and there's a lot of trust in every single word that we say, and so we don't take that lightly here as a whole at the ticket. And then second of all the producers, right, like the people you don't see, the people that those 10-minute breaks in between games, Jay. This is me speaking for myself. I can't say for you. Like those are awesome. Because when you get to game 30 and it's like, okay, I just need a 10-minute break to just get up, walk around, and do nothing. Like, thank goodness Rico and Austin and Bach and Bill and Harrison and Josh even at times were back here and willing to just say, okay, hey, we're gonna break down the Huskers for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And so like things like that mean more and are more important than I think a lot of people realize, because if we didn't, then hey, you know what? We probably couldn't have done 42, because then 10 minutes stacks on to 20, and then 20 makes it 30. And by the time when you do 6 games a day, and there's those longer sessions in there as well, that I mean, you're talking about being on the air nonstop, except for commercials, from 8:45 is when we usually did pregame to 9:40 p.m. is when we usually got out of there. So that'd be a long day when you stack one day on top of 2, and then eventually into 8 total days at Pinnacle Bank Arena. So, just thanks to everybody that and the listeners, right? Because we're aware that high school basketball nonstop
is important.
Yeah, well, it is important, and then also can be at times when you don't know anything about the teams. Can be tough to listen to, right? And so we appreciate you guys bearing with us and hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Okay, let's dive into the girls' tournament first, because I think there could be possibly 2 leads here, and both of them involve future Division I talent, I guess. The girls tournament wasn't nearly as competitive as maybe the boys tournament, but there was some real bright spots. And one of those was, were the Gesser twins for
Oh,
Millard
yeah.
West. The other one in Class B obviously was Elkhorn North as a whole. Elkhorn North wins 4 straight state tournaments. It's a year for them, obviously, being a school. Britt Prince and Elkhorn North, for that matter, didn't really shoot all that well
All tournament.
at the tournament.
Yeah.
But here they are. They still figured out a way over a really good Scott team to win their fourth.
Yeah, Scott really had control, and they were led by Ladwig,
Yeah.
and we saw her in the semifinals, and we were impressed by as soon as she would get the rebound, eyes up, and was just on target, on time with the deep passes leading to easy buckets.
Yeah.
And Scott Catholic gave Elkhorn North all that they can handle, and it looked like that, Elkhorn North was dead in the water. But the one thing that you see, Nick, and before we get to the Gesser twins, is the championship mentality, the championship experience when you can really dig down deep, right? I mean, because when you won 3 state championships, you could think like, okay, here we go again. They're eventually gonna, just roll over. But they had to dig deep. They had to make a couple plays, and then Britt Prince hit a big three, and that was kind of like opened the floodgates a little bit. But it was timely timeout. It was, getting a offensive rebound when you needed it and hitting a free throw. It was all those things that Elkhorn North had to pull out of their back pocket to stop and stymie a powerful offense from Scott Catholic, especially in those first 2.5 quarters, right? When you think how, they played in the first half and in the first half of the third quarter, Elkhorn North looked like they were up against it. They were going to compete. And, for them to come back, it was really special for Britt Prince. And she was, and this is also something that's really special. The Britt Prince never talked about her being a little bit hobbled, but me and you noticed it right away. And she picked in her spots, but then when she had to turn it on, she knows how to turn on. So when you think about what's possibly the future of her, that's where you have somebody that can dig deep and that you want to come in and is going to be all that advertised. I mean, that's the first time I was ever able to see her up close and personal. I'm more than impressed, and it was a really good job by Coach Williams and the staff to get her to come to Nebraska.
Well, I mean, yeah, big time. And I think when you look at, once again, Elkhorn North, there's so much conversation around obviously surrounding and including Britt Prince, but there's so many quality pieces around her.
Yeah.
Right? Like we look at the Reese Booths and we look at the Reagan Palmers and McKenna Murphy. And there's a lot of those players that now next year aren't going to be there because they were the first class for Elkhorn North. And they've kind of stayed together through it all, which is really, really cool to see. But now they're walking out 4-time straight state champions. And I think just because those players move on, the mentality that you talked about doesn't, right? Because if they did their job as leaders, then that passes it down to the underclassmen. And that's the case, I think, anywhere, even if you just win 1 or even 2 state titles. I think that mentality stays within the program more so. But everybody needs a Reese Booth on their team.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she is one of the shorter players out there, listed, I think, at I want to say, I don't want to throw it out there. She's not as tall as a normal forward would be, but she leads the team in rebounds or is up there in rebounds. Like, things like that are important when you're talking about instilling, but then also maintaining that championship mindset.
Yeah, so in this day and age of, all about me or I'm going to get mine mentality, the role players and being I always say all-state player in your role doesn't get talked about enough. She's a perfect example. If she was at another high school, she would probably easily be a high double-digit scorer, right? I think what did she do at the end of the first half to get the momentum for Elkhorn North to go into halftime? Hit that shot. How did she hit the shot? She got it off for offensive rebound. She's, like you mentioned, she's one of the smaller players on in Elkhorn North is a big team, but she's a smaller player. She plays forward, but she had 5 offensive rebounds. That's about want to, and that's about playing your role, understanding who you are and how you play as big a role within that program and that team as a Britt Prince or Palmer or a Murphy or something like that. So, really, I mean, that's just why they're good. Very rarely do you have a team of 4 or 5-star recruits in the state of Nebraska. And that's a lot of high school teams are like that too. And you see it in NBA and college. You got to have specialty role players. We see it with Nebraska and what they're doing. So, hats off to them. hats off also to Stuck Catholic.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know you mentioned before we can, you know, jump right into Millard West. The Gesser twins, I'd heard about them for quite some time
Mhm.
from a friend of mine and Millard West team.
Yeah.
And I could not be more impressed with that team, skill-wise, basketball-wise, basketball acumen, team. They can play any way you want. They can play slow down. They can play fast. They can, you know, play zone. They can do whatever. It was
Mhm.
a really a joy to watch. But the Gesser twins, to be twin sisters, and the great thing about them, they play the same position, but they play it differently.
Yeah.
And you need one to step up, you know, really, you know, in the first round when they had their backs against the wall. And then when you saw it at the end, when I think when Coach
Mhm.
Amy Williams was watching, they really closed the door to win that state championship
Yeah.
against again another game Bellevue West team that me and you saw in 2023. And remember, we said, and listen, whether it was brown or white on Bellevue West, they were a
Yeah.
little bit of starstruck, big
Yeah.
stage, you know, kind of a little overzealous. And we said, you know what, if they have a good summer, you know, Collier
Mhm.
as well, where she was magnificent in the championship.
Yeah.
And we said, you know what? If they go and have a really good summer, they're going to be a team to reckon with.
Yeah.
And they gave Millard West all that they can.
Yeah, Millard West. It was really those in one of the games. Neely Gesser hit, excuse me, like 3 straight threes.
That was the first round.
First round,
When
back
it,
to back to back,
when
and it was like, okay, Millard West is going to be
yeah,
it. Obviously as the number one seed, a tough out. Speaking of Bellevue West, though, I think they're a team that maybe was not under the radar necessarily, but wasn't talked about a whole lot
no,
in the scope of the state, right? Because Bellevue West, man, like you went up and down the list. You had Annika Russell Brown, you had Naomi White, you had Danielle Coyer, but then you also had
McVay,
and Mia McVeigh, who was just a nuisance on
right.
defense. And then you also had Kenzie Melcher, who had a couple big
Yeah,
shots.
yeah. I mean, their whole starting five were legitimate players, and they were all
Yeah,
really. They were all the thing about it. They were all really good offensive and defensive players. They just played a little bit
yeah,
better, team, more savvy, more experienced down the stretch. And you talk about Neely Gesser coming down in that championship game with Amy Williams watching when you really needed your superstar player to step up. 3 straight threes, and I think she ended up with 29 points, only missed 3 shots from the field. You talk about being a
mhm,
closer. You talk about pressure when you know the college that you most likely would be more open to go to
yeah,
as a junior, the head coach is watching, and you put on the best performance of the whole tournament in the biggest moment on the court that you potentially want to, you know, play at, along
mhm.
with your sister playing well. I mean, it's and plus you got to think with Millard West, they were fighting a little bit against themselves because they were one of the favorites
That's
last
right.
year,
Yeah,
and then they lost to Lincoln High in the first round. But we had Dominique Kelly on, you know, on another one of our shows, and she mentioned Millard West posed the most problems when they were playing in the tournament last year. So that just lets you know
mhm,
how well, first of all, how good Millard West is, but how exciting the girls' side of the state tournament was. Because at the end, as soon as we signed off,
yeah,
we said, you know what, boys, you're up next
yeah.
because they set the bar extremely high.
Well, and a couple other just before we close the book on the girls, a couple more shout outs to Maddie Castlebaum for Lincoln Christian.
Oh yeah,
Congrats to them. She had an incredible state tournament. Maddie Castlebaum did. She went. I don't have the stats in front of me. It was she shot like 15 of 18 from the free throw line
right.
in the championship game. All but 2 of her points, I believe, came from the free throw line. The championship game, she dropped 20 plus in the semifinal round. And Scott Klein in year two as head coach of Lincoln Christian able to get a state championship for a storied Lincoln Christian girls basketball program. And then in D2 action, you had Overton. Jolie Ryan was really good. Natalie Wood had over 20 rebounds in the championship game for Overton. So the number one seed there won the D2 title as well. Okay, so now moving on to the boys' side of things.
Oof.
Coming into it, we knew, all right, competitiveness, right?
Yeah.
And we had a few overtime matchups. Let's start in Class B
Yeah.
with you had, I mean, just the first round game between not only Crete and Platteview. I thought Crete showed a lot of resiliency in that game,
Yeah.
simply because we saw Ben Ehlers on the floor, right, or on the hardwood. We knew he was injured going into the game. He had a knee brace on, but he tried to jump up, and when he landed, he just couldn't get back up. And
Right.
so to work through without a player of that magnitude for Crete. Showed, I thought, resiliency there. And then also, in addition to that, the way that Norris was able to get past Bennington, 2 examples of resiliency for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it was actually 3. Let's not forget Elkhorn essentially had the eventual state champion
That's right.
in the palm of their hand,
Yeah.
and one of their star players, Lemansky, fouled out. And so that changed the dynamic of the whole game. And so, you know, the first game in the state tournament or any big tournament is generally the hardest.
Yeah.
But you have to have, they call it championship pedigree, DNA, the it factor, some savvy, whatever you want to have it. And that's what all these teams had. You got to think where Crete had been undefeated, the overwhelming number 1 seed.
Yeah.
The guy that with Ben Ehlers, and shout out to him too for trying to give it out. But he is their glue guy. He's the guy that makes the plays that when things get a little hairy, that lets everybody else kind of play in their roles. That's why they were undefeated. He goes down. He is definitely compromised. And then that lets you know how well Crete has been, coached, that they were able to step up and get through that game. And then you look at Norris, right? And Norris playing against Benton, a game Bennington team, to where, they were getting destroyed inside. But you know what? Chris Gardner Jr. was a little bit slow out of the game, but then who you got? McCoy Fulker steps up.
Yeah.
Boys really starts to get going, and then their complementary pieces started going. And then we had was it Jake Barons? He hit 3 threes.
Yeah.
And so that's how you were able to get through that first round. And then, next thing you know, you're in the championship game. So it takes a little bit. It's not. I think sometimes when people think about high school sports, in basketball, especially boys, oh, you're 25, whatever. You're the number 1 seed. Okay, we'll see you on Saturday night. It doesn't work like that. And we saw that firsthand. Well, you got to go out there because everybody, you're playing the best team.
Well, we saw it. We saw it in Class D2 in the first game of the week. Excuse me, when GACC knocked off North Platte State Pass.
Yeah,
that's an 8 seed going up against a 1 seed, and the 8 seed won.
Yeah, and a lot of times in these little lower classes, but even as I was looking at it, Nick, in C1, C2, and definitely B, you can't really say as much in A. You don't see these teams often, right?
No.
So that's
especially once you get out to Western Nebraska, because they're playing teams from Wyoming or even sometimes Colorado,
right? Then South Dakota,
yeah, exactly.
So you think about like a Scotts Bluff that was in Class B, where they're playing more of a Eastern Colorado teams, and they have a little bit of a limited schedule. Well, then here they can pose some problems when they come in, and play against these, teams closer to the Metro and Lincoln, and vice versa. So that's where you could possibly get an 8 seed upset in a 1. But then we'll stay in Class D too. We saw Ainsworth, right? Everybody wanted to see a Carter Nelson and the dunks and all that. Walked away extremely impressed by that basketball program, by Carter Nelson, obviously 10 times over. But those are the things that you get to see. You got to see a lot of, future Huskers playing, but you got to see some really good basketball regardless of the class. And then, we could go into all of them before, but Class B, we knew it was going to be competitive.
Yeah.
We knew it. We knew Class, and we said it before numerous times leading up to it. This Class A tournament, because it was a foregone conclusion Bellevue West was going to win last year in the Class A boys.
Yeah.
But
and you kind of knew that Miller North was the biggest threat to them.
Right.
As usual.
Right. But Bellevue West in 2023 had beat them by 20 or 30 points. So
that's right.
Like, okay, well, and they had buzzsaws through everybody. But we said Class B and Class A, this is going to be the most competitive first round semis championship game that has probably been, in my opinion, maybe in 5+ years.
Yeah.
And it definitely played out.
Well, I mean, I'm just up and down looking at the scores here. The largest margin in the first round games, right? So when you're getting those 1 versus 8 and 2 versus 7s and 3 versus 6 in the first round in Class A and B combined, the largest margin of victory was the 1 seed Crete up against the 8 seed Platteview. They won 43-30.
Yeah,
you're talking about a 13-point game.
Right.
Elsewhere, it's a 6-point Bellevue West win in the first round over Creighton Prep, which definitely we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Omaha Central won by 10 over Omaha North. Miller North won by 7 over Gretna. Westside squeaked it out against Southeast. I mean, these are now opportunities for teams, for example, a Creighton Prep in
Right.
this instance, where they can put that on film up against the eventual state
Oh,
champion
yeah.
and say, we had a pretty good game plan going in. I thought Creighton Prep did.
I mean, big shout out to Coach Ludke. I mean, he coached his tail off. He prepared his tail off. And you got to think it takes a lot. Creighton Prep is a proud program in every
Yeah.
sport. And you got to think the performance, and I'm sure Coach Ludke would say this too, and this is not taking anything from Southeast, right?
Yeah.
Going up there for 2 years in a row and beating them. To lose like they did at home had this thing. And very rarely you get a second chance. Because I think we did the Pius thing where Central upset Pius. We didn't think Creighton Prep was going to get in. They needed some help. They got in. They took advantage of the situation, of the opportunity. And Nick, let's be honest. If I'm Coach Lucky, here's what I'm saying. They kicked Bellevue West tail.
Yeah. 3.5 quarters.
3.5 quarters.
Up until the Jaden Jackson threes.
Well, and up until then, 2 back-to-back Jaden Jackson threes, and they had a missed layup underneath.
That's right.
And then they had an offensive foul or moving screen on Parker, and then they had a missed bunny layup, then back-to-back threes with Jaden Jackson, and then Bellevue West went on their mini run and closed the door on them. But Creighton Prep had control of that game all game long. They were more physical, I felt like. I felt like they were there. You know what I mean? They were there mentally with their energy and want to. They outshot Creighton Prep, right? Clausen was off the charts, I felt like. And Parker was a defensive stalwart. I think he controlled the middle. I felt like their guards played well. I thought Tolliver and Brown really played well. And then Bellevue West with Jaden Jackson and the rest of those phenomenal players were able to bring it through. But that's how let you know how competitive it was. One three from Jaden Jackson doesn't go in, we're talking about a different state champion.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're right, because I just looking at it, I remember we said it on air where Bellevue West had 29 points at the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
And that's unheard of for a team like Bellevue West. And part of that is they were missing shots in the first round, but also part of it was the defensive game plan from Creighton Prep. 41 points. They won 41-35, fewest amount of points that they've scored all season long.
Right.
And then how about this? In the championship game where Bellevue West won 57-48, second fewest amount of points that they've scored all season long. Scored over 60 points every single game until the state tournament. That tells you the preparation, not only from Coach Lucky, but also Coach Edsel Miller of Miller North. And I know you're a bit talking about Miller North here. I know you're a big Derek Rollins guy.
I am. I've seen him play through club basketball, seen him kind of mature through this whole process of being a star player.
Yeah.
And from last year to this year, I feel like he's almost to the point of unstoppable, and he has 2 more years. But then, I think just you got to give credit to the program. Like you got to give it to the coaching staff and the players around them and how they've developed. They've been listen. For people that want to know how to get your high school team up to snuff, just come and watch those coaches and the coaches. They are invested in every player. They challenge the players that are there have earned it. They all play, hard because they have put in situations that know that they appreciate it. Truly invested in those players. And you got to think, I always think about it, like when you saw some of the emotion after some of these kids lose. I hate those. But then you saw the elation of teams that win, right? And so, we talked about Ethel Miller. But let's not forget like Coach Bruce Chubbuck taking a leap of faith and going and trying to re-energize Central, and he did it tenfold. And look, the guy that probably had the most pressure in that state tournament was Steve Klein.
Yeah,
taking over one of the best high school teams ever in Nebraska state history in Bellevue West last year, and then coming back with a lot of your guys. Now you're missing some. I'm missing, but still the odds-on favorite.
Yeah,
and you got your mentor up there watching, and you got tested every single time. But he was been a part of the program. He's invested in those players. They invest in defense. They talk about getting top. He knows how to make adjustments. I mean, it's great basketball.
Let's be honest. The same kind of pressure that Coach Etzler had. Years ago, Tim Campbell I believe it was after the 2021 season, after Miller North finally won one, is that they didn't have he had the pressure next year when he
Right.
played in the state title to win it after Tim Cannon, and that's
Yeah.
why, like, the look of relief, I think,
Yeah.
on Steve Klein, if you watched it on TV like maybe we did, or if you were there, the camera showed Steve Klein,
Right.
and I think there was just relief
Yeah.
that he was able to continue it,
And
right?
get it done.
Yeah, and get it done, and a big part of that is from the seniors and, like, the Jaden Jacksons and the Eldon Turners and the
Jacob
Pulisics
Aroops
and
and
Jacob
yeah,
Aropes,
yeah.
and yeah, I think there's just Robbie Garcia will return next year for Bellevue West. I think he still has one more year. So I think there was a lot of good pieces. Just a really, really good couple of tournaments. All right, Jay, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. You didn't know we were doing this.
All right.
I need your starting 5.
From
All
Class A.
tournament. Cool.
Boys?
All tournament for boys.
Man.
Starting 5. Because here, I'll just run through some options in case you don't mention them.
Okay.
I mean, it's Marcus Glock is one that comes to
Marcus
mind.
Glock for sure.
Maverick Binder is one of them. You have obviously Brock Scholl. You have
Yeah.
a guy like Ododa Van Dyke, and
Yeah.
you got a really nice starter, first round game in
I
Class
mean, you gotta think. I'd probably
Gardner.
I'd probably go, um, let me see. I'd go Marcus Glock. Obviously, Scholl, Derek Rollins, and then I mean, you could go anywhere from Neil Monster,
Yeah.
and then you could have the point guard from Scotts Bluff that was Nathan Kelly, that was
Yeah.
hobbled with a like knee type of shin deal, and just quietly had 25 points
Yeah.
in a loss. And then you're overlooking a Chris Gardner Jr. You're overlooking
Jaden Jackson, like we
Jaden
just talked
Jackson.
about.
You're overlooking even an Eldon Turner. You're overlooking
What about Stubblefield from
Right,
West
I
Side?
was
We haven't
looking
even talked about West Side.
You're right. And we can right now. You talk about West Side. I mean, just think about the journey. of these
Yeah.
teams. Let's not overlook Southeast, right?
Yep.
Joey Warning and staff finally had a breakthrough last year on the road again to go to Creighton Prep. That they circled that game. You go up there and beat them again. Big shout out to Jay Hickelman, turnaround Jeffrey there in Southeast, nice history. And then you come out and you play against the West Side team. Now you spanked West Side during the year.
Yeah.
Now then let's flip to West Side. West Side is a prideful program. They have competitive players. And what do? Get back against Southeast. What does West Side also do? Played Miller North. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, had again, like Creighton Prep, had Miller North on the rope.
Yeah.
I could argue with it. You gotta think. Big shout out to CJ Mitchell. Big shout. If it's not Nathan Kelly, I'm pretty much CJ Mitchell.
Yeah.
If I need a defensive stop, I'm Caleb Benny. If I need a guy that can do it all, I'm taking Stubblefield. Because Stubblefield, in that game against Miller North, he gave Derek Rollins all the business to handle.
And don't forget Ricky Lofton in there.
You take the word. I mean, you're everybody.
Healy,
Right.
man.
I mean, and let's not forget Miller North. You had Major Monster coming off the bench that can do it.
Urbanek, who was starting for him, and you also Elijah
might. I might take. Actually, I'm going to take Nathan Kelly off. I want Elijah Gay.
No,
because what we've seen what he can do. There's a ton of players there that were just great players, great teams. It was a phenomenal tournament. If we would have just went and watched Nick, we would have been down there for the same 12, 13 hours. Yeah. But we were blessed enough to call them and see them and see the nuances of the game, right? The nuances of how, like we were like let's go to we'll just bounce all over. Like you got to think Catholic, right? They're Elkhorn is destroying them inside. George Zeeble has the game of his life as a sophomore, kind of wet behind the ears. The game of his life to give him confidence. And then you had my man Cannon, big game Cannon, where when Scholl was kind of struggling, his partner in crime took up the slack. I mean, that's what it's about.
Well, and don't forget Aiden McDowell. You can go up and down this list and just it would be impossible to say pick a starting 5.
The guard for anything.
Austin Kaiser.
Just giving everybody. And big man Hayden Norfolk.
That's right.
I mean, where I shook hands with him. He's a tight end, by the way.
There you go.
And my man can move for being 6'4", 225 pounds. I mean, it was great playing. And let's not forget, let's give a shout out to Platteview.
Yeah.
Right? Lost 6 seniors last year of a legendary team. I think the leading scorer in Class B history, right?
That's right.
Curriculum, right?
Yep.
Right. And then you make it back again with a young team. Same with Scottsbluff. Scottsbluff had remember all those freshmen and sophomore we started naming off,
Yeah.
and they didn't look here. Basketball in Nebraska at the high school level is in great hands.
Yeah.
And these programs continue to grow. And that's what's one of the best things to see.
All right, let's get out of here. Just once again, just wanted to get on and recap NSAA girls and boys state tournament action. It was a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate the sponsors, Union Bank and Trust, and a lot more for all their support. Thanks to Jay. Thanks to all the producers. And thanks to you guys once again for tuning in all 6 days, or excuse me, 8 days.
Yeah.
All 8 days.
Well, hold on. Now, I might put you on the spot now. Do you want to try to make a pick for next year?
Ooh.
Do you want to try to pick boys and girls for next year?
All right. So let's
Class B girls.
Class B girls.
I'll go first.
Omaha Scott.
Yep. Okay.
Omaha Scott. You're bringing back Molly Ladwig. She is so good.
Right.
She is so good. Not even going to talk a lot about her, but Class A girls.
Millard West.
Just because they've done it. They've done it. For boys in Class B action. Oh, Crete, maybe Scott.
I'm gonna go Scott or
Norris, maybe
Norris.
Norris is young,
but also we go back to it. Big shout out, Tommy Johnson, North Star.
Yeah,
that's my dark horse
in Class A. Okay, Class A girls.
For Class B for me,
for boys,
it's Scott.
Okay,
Scott Catholic is
they only graduate one guy,
and they're
starting 5.
Right. Well, they bring back the Twin Towers.
Yep,
and they bring back Cannon.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate equalizer.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I believe I can't remember which one. Either Van Dyke or O'Doherty are back.
Van Dyke's a senior. O'Doherty is back.
Okay,
He
was a big part of the championship.
4 threes, and then
there you go. I think he shot 4 for 6 from 3. Class A boys.
I'm gonna go with Millard North, considering what Bellevue West lost. You lose Jaden Jackson, you lose Jacob Aru. The Polishek is on. Yep. So that's the 3-pointer. But they're gonna be reloaded. I just think when you have Derek Collins coming back, now they lose a lot. They lose Neil Mosser. They lose Gate. They lose Urbanek as well. So it's hard for me to even pick him. I think this might be a year that we might get a Lincoln.
That's what I was just gonna say. Is it feels like Class A has a chance to be just wide open next year. And we're excited. We'll be there. Appreciate you guys. Let's get out of here. Gretna. Just a roller coaster of a year, and they had a really good effort against Millard North in the first round game, and Pecorski is one of the most enjoyable players I think to watch for both of us there.
Baby.
There you go.
Love you, man.
All right, we're out of here. Appreciate you guys listening. Stay with us throughout all high school seasons, as we'll have plenty of high school baseball state tournament coverage coming up in the next couple of months. And then we'll kick it off with football back in the fall. All right. See you guys.